Hello, welcome to the Accelerate 2023 conference. We are broadcasting live on BHPH Nation TV, and we're thrilled to have some guests with us here.
It's loud.
Yeah, we might explain to our listeners, we've got audio challenges here, which is all new kind of frontier on some of this stuff, but we just are going to have a lot of background noise. Unfortunately, You're going to hear the hustle and bustle. We are in the corner of the expo hall with hundreds of people here.
You can hear
supposed to be 200 exhibitors in the exhibit hall this year. Yeah. And so those who don't know us, I've got Michelle, my business partner and wife, who happened to have a birthday yesterday, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And so we also... That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's where we learn everything these days, right? And I'm Jim Rhodes. I'm the president, head coach of the Octane Group, and we're a coaching consulting firm who's stepped in a lot of podcasting and Nation TV broadcasting. So we're just here to talk about the buy here, pay here business.
Do you want to introduce our guests?
Oh, I will.
Okay. All right.
We'll get to that. So we're just thrilled to have a couple of former dealers with us, and so we'll talk about that and get them introduced. But I just to kind of set the stage for what's happened here. We were invited to broadcast for the conference. They've got us set up here with speakers, so we've got people milling through the crowd here, and it's just a really electric atmosphere, super fun situation. And so we're thrilled to have the opportunity to broadcast here. So let me introduce our guest here. To my immediate left, we've got Steve Taylor, who is the Director of Acquisitions for America's Car Mart, former dealer in the state of
Illinois.
Southern Illinois. I might have put that down wrong in our material, but I was thinking Indiana, but Illinois. Yeah.
I'm an Indiana Hoosier.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
It all works out. You know how to find Steve Taylor anyway. And then on the end down there, we've got Keith Hagler, who we finally got a chance to meet last night. Keith's one of those people I've known and seen him at the NIADA conference many times, and just finally had a chance to chat and get to know.
Everybody knows Keith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now that you can add Jim and Michelle to the list. So we're thrilled to have these two gentlemen here tonight. And I really just wanted to have a chance to talk to you two. After meeting you, Keith, I thought I want to have a chance to kind of tell the long version of the story of how you two came to be where you are, because I think if I'm a dealer out there who's new, pretty small, right now they're just thinking about how to grow their business. They're not really thinking about exit. Of course, with the work that Michelle and I do, we spend a lot of time talking to dealers about how to prepare their business in a way that they would have the greatest value. Maybe tomorrow they're not selling, but they're thinking about how to take a little more time off, be away from their business more. So those are all the things that we find ourselves talking about all the time with our clients in the coaching capacity. But I think, Steve, if you want to go first, maybe share the story. We know your story, but if you wanted to share for our listeners who've not heard that, just kind of tell the story about how you came to be where you are and kind of your history in the buy here, pay here space.
So
you might want to lean in a little bit more.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll get you said the long version, but I'm going to go the
medium version. Fine.
So I'm a third generation car dealer. I'm being heckled, by the way.
Yeah, that's part of the live audience, right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so third generation, my grandfather was a Ford dealer in a small town, Benton, Illinois, and I grew up. My dad did that as well, and I did some other things, worked in banking, and decided I would go back into family business in 1994. And my dad had actually started doing some buy here, pay here in our small hometown, Benton, Illinois. And he actually went to a conference with Jim DeVoe. A lot of us in buy here, pay here all learned from sort of the buy writer world. And so anyway, short version, we sold the Ford dealership in 2000, and that's when we really started ramping up the buy here, pay here. And I grew that to 4 locations. Decided that after the 4th location, after about, I think we ran that 10 years, it was too much of a headache. We were juggling too many people, and we went back to 3 locations. But we kind of dominated buy here, pay here in our little part of Southern Illinois. So I did that really for 25 years and ended up with several thousand accounts and did lots of lending and had lots of repeat customers and had a nice business. But you start to realize, you come to these conferences and there's all these vendors and there's software and there's all this technology, but there really aren't any booths for where's the exit strategy booth? Where's the private equity booth? Where's the
Good point.
Yes, you could get some consulting maybe from your accounting firm or something, but there's just not a whole lot of expertise or training or even thought process about how do you stop doing buy here, pay here.
Sure.
And for me, tax season 27 wasn't as exciting as tax season 7.
Yeah, of course.
And so it was kind of I felt like I was playing defense. It wasn't as fun. But I wanted to maximize my portfolio. You spend your whole life building this portfolio up, and I didn't, some of the options are sell your notes or whatever. And so I ended up in a relationship with America's Car Mart, and they're based in Arkansas, and they're in 11 states. And I met the CEO at NIADA several years before, and we started up another dialogue, and I ended up being acquired. They acquired my 3 locations, and Illinois became their 12th state.
Right.
So it was a way, they didn't buy my portfolio. So it was a way for me to transition. All of my staff got to keep their jobs. I got to maximize my portfolio because I collected it out over time, and it kind of just worked like a teeter totter. And he's starting that process now because he's a new acquisition from Car Mart. You flip the switch and the loans start going to Car Mart, and I collect mine out.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the story, but there just aren't too many great options for exits that anybody's really figured out. And
that's how you and I met, really.
You spent a lot of time. You did a 3-part series. If anybody, you need to check it out. It's on YouTube. I watched all 3 of them about why is there no blue sky in buy here, pay here.
Right.
And that's something you're trying to work through. And I think Car Mart's got we're kind of building a template to help dealers kind of go through the process. And I'll let Keith jump in.
Yeah. So Keith, before you jump in, I got a quick thing I want to explain to our listeners that are out there that we are having some power problems. Like
we've been just fine since we changed the outlet. There's a lot of stuff behind us, and it's taken a lot of power. And I kept going, "What happened to the power?" It turned off again, so we changed the outlet.
So there's a lot going on here.
There is an awful lot going on here.
If the power goes down, just hang in. We'll be back.
Yeah.
We're having
and just lean into the microphone, guy, because you guys can almost eat it.
Yeah,
and then people will be able to hear you
pick
better.
up that microphone and hold it.
Okay.
So yeah, for Keith Hagler, we know the story. And let me clear up some confusion before we start. We have Mr. Steve Taylor sitting next to me, and you're in Taylor, Texas. So when I first saw the Taylor Auto Credit was going, I thought, wait a minute, what's the connection there? And turns out there is none. So just a weird coincidence that you're in Taylor, Texas. But yeah, tell us the story about, first go back and tell us how you got in the buy here, pay here business, kind of when that was, and tell the story, long version if you like.
Okay. Well, I'm the first generation car dealer in my family. Got in it right after college, got in the used car business. Didn't know what buy here, pay here was back then. So I've been in it for 33 years. Wow. So kind of had to learn buy here, pay here as I went along. Then, found out about my state association, NIADA, and that kind of got me involved and got me with other dealers and learning how the process worked. And then that got me into NIADA, which eventually got me into the 20 group. And that's when I met Steve along that way, which has been a long time, which turned out to be a great relationship because it's because of Steve. I really feel that's why I'm with Car Mart today. Okay. Had I not had Steve, I don't know. Yeah. So, but anyway, we were a small town, Taylor, Texas, up near Austin. About, I think when we got there was like 12,000 people. We're up to about 19 now, but it's actually really starting to really grow. Mm-hmm. But we're the only show in town, again, buy here, pay here. We actually grew it to 5 locations at one time. Got up there pretty heavy, got leveraged, pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then decided after we got leveraged that high, we were trying to figure out, okay, what we're going to do with this animal. Right. And I've got 2 daughters, and neither one are going to be in the car business. Yeah. We also have real estate investments. That one of them's going to do that. The other one is going to find herself and probably do mission work and things like that. So anyway, my wife and I both decided it was time to be looking for something. Mm-hmm. Didn't know how that would really look. So I actually came to NIADA last year, walked the hall, saw Steve with the America's Car Mart shirt on. I was like, what's America? And I knew he had been acquired, but I didn't know. I'd lost contact a little bit in there with Steve because I'd gotten out of the 20 groups years before. But then I saw that, and he said, that's who acquired me. And I go, oh. And he was actually standing next to Jeff Williams, which our CEO, was standing right next to him. So we kind of talked, and then Jeff and I kind of walked together down the hall, and then I kind of talked to him about Taylor a little bit, not thinking anything would come from it. Anyway, kind of speed that along, and saw another friend of mine, Greg Zach, in the hall that night, Expo Hall. He said, "Hey, I heard you're thinking about selling. You ought to talk to America's Car-Mart." I go, "Okay, this is working out." And then he said, "Yeah, there are accountants here. You ought to talk to him." So anyway, all worked out, and met Jeff the next day. He talked more, and it worked out well. Like the next week, he was in Taylor, and came to see us, and I guess liked what he saw. We kind of started working from there. Yeah. But I go along with a lot what Steve is saying. We looked, and the different strategies that we looked at. One is you could just close down, I guess, and collect your notes out and rent your lot out. But we had 23 employees that many of them several have been with us for over 20 years to 25 years. One actually there 30 something years. Right. So, I kind of cared for them as much as I cared for my business. Yeah. With Car-Mart, they took them all in. Everybody stayed. And that was one of their big concerns, that nobody would leave because they wanted to stay like it was. Right. So, and one of the things that has really excited me, and I tell everybody about Car-Mart, was 4 of my people have been with me for 25 years. They now have worked for Car-Mart for 25 years. Yeah. So they took their time over. So that meant a lot to my employees. And so far, everybody's just excited about it.
That's beautiful.
And Can I make a couple comments here? I love hearing different dealer stories because there's so many things that just overlap. One of the things is we talk to dealers every day that are, all right, I'm kind of not wanting to spend an awful lot of time here. I don't have someone that's willing to step in and take over for me. Yes. And so from that stems, we've heard it very frequently within the financial sector of buy here, pay here. Everyone sells eventually. Everyone sells their notes eventually. And so what it sounds to me like is you have the option and the ability to go ahead and run those notes up. Right. Without having to have the dealership and all of the things that are associated with running a dealership. You just kept people on taking care of those notes, and everything else got shifted on over to Car-Mart. Oh, it's the perfect situation. It really was. Yeah. I mean, the perfect scenario.
I'm 3 years in with Car-Mart, and all of my management team is still in place.
Still there.
That is so beautiful.
Level turnover like you all do. Yeah. So this person comes and goes, but it's been a good transition, and it seems like the biggest disconnect is trying to get maximum value for your portfolio, but everybody keep their job. Most of the exit strategies that I kept running around in my head were, we'll shrink this business down until I've got one lot and I quit selling cars, and then one by one I have to lay everybody off and they go away. Or I sell my notes, I take my ball and I go home. I'm fine financially, but all my people lose their job, and I've got 25. And
your
30.
family. You've been working with each other for for decades.
It just didn't seem fair or right. Yeah. And Car-Mart makes it a nice transition because, of course, some of my staff initially felt like, they're going to bring in a team of people and replace us. There's no team of people. Car-Mart needs the team. That's what they're really buying. Yeah. That was actually one of the reasons why Jim and I were talking about. We want to have you guys talk to us a little bit about why. What are the things, Jim? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and I just would remind people who listen to our broadcast routinely, they know we're not here to pitch anybody or anything. We're just here to talk about buy here, pay here, and what can work. And I think the thing that, Steve and I have talked about this, Keith, you and I had a chance to talk last evening about this idea that when America's Car-Mart came to Taylor, Texas to talk to you, I'm sure the question came up, but I think you quickly learned that they weren't so much interested in your gross profit per deal or the volume of contracts that you had on the books. It wasn't all these things that we might think would mean valuable business. In fact, there was more culture and those kind of things and community connections. So you might talk about that part, about what ultimately they were interested in when they came to sort of assess your business.
Yeah, and that was kind of a shock to me because you would think the company was going to come in. That's the first thing they would look at, those, what you just named. But no, there was more of how we were involved in the community. I think Steve did a good job of selling because he knew before what all we did in Taylor. And we're involved in everything. You name it, we're in it because we're Taylor. So that's what they really look like, because that's their values at Car-Mart. They're really high on their values, their mission, and we fell right into that.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
So perfect fit.
And you're the first director of acquisitions at Car-Mart, am I right? Or that they've done that before?
They have not done that before.
Yeah.
We're trying to sort of build out a platform,
Right.
and we now have a full-time. I'm just a part-time sort of connector, connect some dots and introduce people.
Right.
But we now have a full-time person that has M&A experience, so they're serious about it.
Yeah, and so I think if there's 10 dealers listening, there's going to be very few of them that are really maybe ultimately a candidate for America's Car-Mart. So we're not necessarily suggesting that dealers should position themselves to sell to your company. That's not really what we're suggesting. But we are saying here's a big operation. How many locations now?
157.
157
locations. And what we're hearing, and I think the big lesson for me in a lot of this is what Michelle and I we're asking dealers to think about what it means to be an asset to their community. Just that phrase alone. You think about what does it mean for me to be an asset to my neighbors and my community, then I think what I'm hearing in your stories is that Car-Mart sees the value in that too. They recognize that obviously your management team and your culture and how they're viewed in the community, how that company is viewed in the company is going to become, or in the community rather, is going to become really important in these things. And I just think it's a kind of an intangible element that doesn't get talked about enough. And you gentlemen have been part of 20 groups. I was a 20 group member at one time as a dealer. And I know that, you touch on culture a little bit, more likely you're talking about your days of inventory supply or the numbers that you're out there fighting day in and day out. But it's like that. I think that's what we're trying to touch on here today is that what is that intangible element? What is it that we can help dealers understand that whether you're selling a Car-Mart or not, what are the things that you felt like you took away that ultimately made your business more valuable to them?
Well, I think one thing is, I know, and I've learned that as being a dealer for over 30 years, you need to start be thinking all the time, what is your exit strategy? Right. I don't care if you're if you've been in 2 years, what if something happens?
Sure.
What if something happens to you? What are you going to do with the family? Right. What happens? How do you liquidate? How does it look like? So I think everybody needs to keep that in the back of their mind, or at least have a plan. Because I've seen that through the years where nobody did have a plan, and either a wife was left that didn't know anything about the business, and all of a sudden she's got this business to take care of. So I think you start planning all the time, but I think it's definitely community involvement. It's how you do your books. It's how you keep your inventory, how you maintain your lot, how you maintain your employees. What does that look like? Do you have that stability of employees? I think that was pretty impressive for even Car-Mart or whoever. When you got employees been with you 15, 20, 25, you got a longevity there. It's not just a revolving door. So I think it makes up a lot of things, but I think dealers as a whole need to be looking for that. And I remember several years ago at TIDA, we were going to have a session on exit strategy. It lasted about 5 minutes because no one had any idea what an exit strategy looked like.
I mean, who's going to get to the exit first?
So that session did not go well at all. But now I think with the Car-Mart example, that maybe others will look at that down the road. I don't know. It's just such a great example of how to collect your accounts, keep all your employees, maintain the business.
Right.
It's just a great example, whether you use the Car-Mart or not. It's just a great example of how to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like an excellent model because obviously it allowed you to get a good value for your business ultimately and make a smooth transition. So I think going back to that example, and I know Steve was part of our event back in March where we dug into this thing about enterprise value. What is real enterprise value? And so we obviously talked about a lot of these things during that event. But I remember that one of the things we talked about with Steve that day is that this idea that your business is going to be, I think the way we said it was, if I were to show up and buy any one of these dealers' businesses, I would need to know, I would, if I'm the buyer, I need some sort of level of comfort that the business in 6 months and 12 months from now is going to operate in a similar way than it does today, right? And so what are the pieces? That's been the fun thing for us to try to assemble is what are the pieces that make that happen?
repeat business for one thing.
Yeah.
If you can show
Yeah.
But how do
consistently
you do
repeat.
that?
And the
Yeah.
longevity
How
of
do
the
you do
staff.
that?
I think that's what makes them comfortable. When I could introduce them to my underwriter, who's been there 14 years, actually more than that now. My general manager, 25 years. My shop manager, over 10 years. All my key management people have been there a long time. And I was like really, really upfront and honest with Jeff Williams, the CEO, and CFO, Vicky, Judy, and said, the place doesn't need me. I'm sort of a figurehead there, and I do the strategy. And I used to use this example that my general manager really ran the thing daily. I got to decide where the ship was going, but she knew how to get it there.
Yeah.
So there was a comfort level that, hey, even when I step back, which I have now, I have no responsibility for the Illinois operations at all. But they were comfortable with that because of the team.
Right. So, yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, we got more to talk about, but I just want to take a moment to say that, we're not here to pitch America's Car Mart.
No,
I just think if dealers were looking to exit the business, I can't think of anybody I'd rather work with than somebody like Steve Taylor, trying to figure out whether my business does make sense. And I'm guessing through that experience, I probably learned what pieces are not in place today, so that I'd have a chance to go, create that.
One of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I'm seeing and that we've really tried to teach is that it's good business to be good to your community. It's good business to be good to your customer.
Right.
Jeff Williams, the CEO, always says towns that have a Car Mart are better because Car Mart is there.
Exactly.
I know
Becoming an
Taylor's
asset.
better.
Yeah.
My company was called Taylor Motor Company, believe it or not. And so, yes, it is confusing.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the corporate office in Rogers has made a couple of mistakes. But I think I got some of your cars. And you got my titles. And making it work.
But I know where you're coming from with that. But I think that's very important. And I think whether anybody's looking at your business, to go back to what you were saying, Jim, that they want to, what's going to keep that business going after they come in and take it over. And I think that's a lot of it is how you're involved in that community and how you have your repeat business. Because I know we sold generations after 30 something years, we sold generations of family members now, and we're continuing to do that. Right. And one of the good things of selling out or being acquired by somebody, especially somebody bigger, we're able to provide now very nicer car, more expensive car that I was not able to do under my way I had ran business. So we're getting newer models. My customers are all excited about that. There's just different things that go along with that. So
I think
they're loving it.
That's where Michelle and I kind of live these days, is trying that intangible thing. Like Michelle and I call it straight lines in business and squiggly lines. Like you can't, it's hard to measure a dealership's reputation in the community. And, you can do Google reviews or whatever, but I'm saying those are the things that we find ourselves talking about a lot with our clients to think about beyond that straight line stuff is how do you create, because culture is, I don't remember talking about culture in Buy Here, Pay Here 5 years ago. Maybe it was there. We've called it different things across the years.
Yeah.
But whatever that looks like in terms of a culture with your team, which extends to your community, through whatever kind of outreach you might have, we just think that's part of what we want to introduce to dealers. So do you have something on that?
No, I think that's probably, if you ask me what I'm most proud of, that's what I'm most proud of is the team we built.
Yeah.
And I think if you ask my dad, he was a very successful Ford dealer for many years, and he would tell you the same thing.
Right.
It wasn't how many cars you sold or what the profitability was. It was, wow, we had a great team.
Yeah. So it's not just it's good business to be good to be good to your customer, it's good business to be good to your team.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially today.
Yeah.
Because in the era where people go to lunch and they text you and say I'm not coming back and whatever.
Of course.
I hear horror stories about that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And so this makes them it creates that longevity. It makes employees a little more sticky because they have a reason to want to be there. They enjoy the work. Of course, they're compensated well, but there's also they can feel good about the work that they're doing. So,
and it seems like there's more and more people in the workforce today that are looking for a stable job, a paycheck, but also a purpose. something that they
Yeah.
can really stand behind and
Yeah.
feel good about going to work every day and the change that
Right.
they're helping to make in
Right.
people's lives.
Right.
I've always thought this business, just the nature of it, has a lot of tension points, right? You have
Yeah.
your used cars, and cars break, and payment issues, and you're working through. You're kind of riding a roller coaster with the customers. I always said we have enough sort of drama out on the outside of our business. We don't want it inside our business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because it's tough, buy here, pay here. You're doing collections, so we know what goes along with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and even sales, your shop, your services hearing, this stuff. So I think it's just trying to keep the happiest atmosphere, I guess, the best way to put it that you can, and just do little things for your employees along the way. I mean, Pizza Friday, just stuff that you kind of go that extra mile to show your appreciation, and people stay.
Right.
I think people work where they like to work. And I think you hit on that a lot of people now won't change jobs just because they're happy where they are. They enjoy going to work every day. That means a lot more now than I think that it used to before. I think people just like to work where they like to work.
Right.
And
So I'm
just going to add. So I mentioned that I was up front with Car-Mart, and I didn't know at the end of my career there, I didn't know how to take a payment. But I was the cheerleader. If we were having a big sales day, I'd go get the pizza, or I would.
Yeah.
Nobody got to eat because we were so busy. That was my job.
Yeah.
So go.
There you go. That's not like I can collect pizza. I think that work. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good stuff. So I might, Steve talked about kind of what he's most proud of. I might ask you both, like starting with you down there, Keith, like what would you say was your favorite part about the buy here, pay here business? Like if you're talking to somebody who's just new, thinking about getting into buy here, pay here, what would you say that you enjoyed the most about that time in the business?
At the time, watching my notes grow.
Yeah.
It really was. It's a business that you can see grow. I mean, you just watch it grow all the time, and watching it build up. Like I say, we built up to 5 lots at one time, and it was just a business that I could see growing. My accounts growing, which meant my customer base was growing.
Sure.
And we learned a lot of stuff along the way. But I think for me, it was a big deal was just watching my customer base grow and then excitement of watching the repeat business. Because believe it or not, we never advertised.
Mm-hmm.
I never spent any money on advertising. All my advertising over 30 something years was either, baseball leagues or school. I mean, we gave to everything in the community. That's how people knew us. But as far as print magazine or radio or TV, we never did that.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of don't have to in a small community. If they see the banner at the softball league or whatever, it says, hey, you need a used car, this is where you need to go.
Well, think about it. You would have to advertise if you were treating customers poorly and burning through them. Now you'd have to go find new customers, right?
Yeah.
So, but you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, we didn't have to do that.
Right. So no, that's really true. So what about you, Steve? The thing that you enjoyed?
I'm more of a numbers guy. I'm not the rah-rah TO, the sales customer guy.
Yeah.
So I always hired those sets. But I enjoyed the financial side of it's. You're in the car business, but this is a finance business.
Sure.
And that's sort of my background. So I enjoyed that. And I was always trying to grow my AR, get that spread between what I owed the bank and what my total AR was, and make that gap just keep getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
I would, I guess for some of the new people getting in the business, I've seen over 25 years, I've seen too many dealers who started out, maybe had zero debt and a couple $1 million on the books, and then you meet them a couple of years later and they have $5 million on the books, but they owe the bank $3 million, and they've really gotten nowhere. But they've done a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
And taking
And
some real risks.
I've just, and I'm sure you see it.
Yeah.
We did business.
Yeah.
It's the danger of the business. Sometimes you're good in sales and you're not watching the financial side of this business.
Yeah.
It's a finance business.
Yeah. Well, I know we could sit here and talk all evening. I also know that a lot of our listeners out there would love to keep Keith Hagler on the microphone, hear that good Texas accent.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that all evening.
Yeah.
But we probably should
Hey, I've
wrap
got a
up
Southern Illinois twang.
Western Oklahoma.
I'm
for
from
me.
Seattle. There ain't nothing there. So, yeah.
No,
Appreciate all the
it's been a fun conversation, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making time. It's really
Thank
good
y'all.
of you
Thank you
to
both.
carve out time, kind of short notice to come join us. And
Yeah.
we have so much fun talking about this kind of thing. We just recognize the opportunity in this buy here, pay here space to help dealers understand the benefit that they can enjoy, by making the connection that we feel like too often is missed about that value of that community piece. Obviously, what I'm hearing in your Car-Mart experience is they're looking heavily at people and processes, and then extending that to the community. Like, what does that translate to in the community?
Right.
I'm guessing. I'm thinking I'm putting some words in people's mouth, but it's like that's what I'm hearing in terms of what they value. And so I think we're obviously trying to help dealers do that, whether they're selling to America's Car-Mart one day or not. We're trying to help them do that. And we think also just part of being in the buy here, pay here business is that idea that when we can become that asset to the community, that we have a chance to have that repeat business and be in business for a very long time. We play a really long game in buy here, pay here, and we think the smaller the community you're in, the more true that can be. So we just kind of see that. But again, gentlemen, we appreciate you making time. We probably
thank you.
No,
thank you so very much.
Appreciate it. Happy birthday again.
For doing all the training you do, and you're connecting a lot of people in our industry, and you're the first person to address why is there no blue sky in this?
We're still trying to how can we really carve out the perfect thing?
That we've all been asking for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, it's true. Well, good. Former dealer myself, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about the blue sky at the time, but I think where that came from, Steve, is I spent some time in Utah. I moved to Utah in 2016. I'm meeting all these entrepreneurs, and they're selling their businesses for multiple, 3 times,
10 times,
earnings.
5 times.
They're like, why don't we see that in buy here, pay here?
In the new car business, it used to be 5 times earning.
And so I think, we've got obviously a fantastic opportunity in business, a lot of margins in buy here, pay here. And so it's always been a challenge for me. So that's what you're seeing is I like a challenge. I like a puzzle. Let's go figure it out.
There you go.
If it was easy, somebody would have already rolled up this industry. Right?
Yeah.
And people have tried and
that's true.
Very well. We both just told you. I went to 4 stores and said this is too hard.
Yeah.
Went back to 3. You went from 5 to 2. So, I mean, Car-Mart's done it as well as anybody.
Yeah.
With 157, they're making it work. So.
They're getting there. So it's all good, I think.
And just one other quick thing. Somebody asked me is like, how did you know Car-Mart wasn't going to come in and just mess up your world? And I said I trusted Jeff Williams, and I think Keith would say that too. They do what they say they're going to do. They're good people. And you got to know who you're partnering with. In any business venture. That's
no matter what you do.
Well, the business is your baby, right? After all those years.
On it.
So you want to feel good about the people you're dealing with. So that all makes a lot of sense. So you gentlemen are definitely champions for that conversation. I appreciate you again making time, and we look forward to having you again.
All right. Anytime.
And we look with the invitations open to Mr. Jeff Williams. Anytime he'd love to join us, we're happy to have
And Keith, it was such a pleasure to meet you. Finally, I see y'all through social media and all that. And it's really nice to put and to meet you for the first time. We've had many a meeting via the internet, but it's just been
so much energy here because in this.
That's the beauty of conference.
Well, because we're coming out of COVID and couldn't do this, and everybody's like, "Wow, this feels like normal again."
It's a lot of energy. So that's a lot of good stuff. So let's go find something to drink and to eat, and then enjoy Vegas.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget that we will be broadcasting live on Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Jim is going to be talking about.
We'll be on strategic planning for buy here, pay here, kind of moving toward exit. Similar conversation, and then you skipped over tomorrow morning. We have Mr. Gordy Tormo.
Oh my goodness, that's like
the new president of NIADA, who's also a buy here, pay here dealer from
Illinois guy.
Right here.
And we will be. Those of you who want to come and listen live with us can come down into the media area, the downstairs of the conference. And that's where we'll be broadcasting from. Okay. So that will be at 8 a.m. Pacific for that one tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, Jim speaking and teaching on at 9 a.m. And I'll be behind the board. Yeah. So if y'all are listening and have questions, please feel free to reach out and let us know what those might be. And we're just really grateful to be here.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up from Accelerate 2023 at least for our evening broadcast from the Expo Hall. So thanks again, gentlemen. We'll wrap up there.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.